Let's talk about Ahmed Ebid. He's 42 years old. He came here not so long ago on a small boat. He broke into this country illegally, came across the English Channel with his wife and 12-year-old daughter to be welcomed into the warm embrace of this over-generous country when it comes to these foreigners who break into our country, Ebid being one of them. He said, you know, he was escaping war and he's Egyptian. He was escaping war and torture. I don't know what war and torture they've got in Egypt. Not much, I don't think. So quite what his case was, God only knows. But he was allowed to claim asylum and therefore allowed to stay, so he gets benefits, and we are paying for his rather nice flat in West London, in Isleworth in West London, where he lives with his family. What it turns out he's been doing there while we've been paying for him, while we've been accommodating him, is running a £12 million people smuggling ring. He will have today, we're not sure what sentence he got, but he's been found guilty of this. He's been convicted, the first ever person in Britain to be convicted of smuggling foreigners unlawfully across the Mediterranean. 12 million quid's worth. He smuggled 3,800, nearly 4,000 people from Libya across the Mediterranean to Europe. He's getting nicked for that today. But it proves, doesn't it, that we just don't ask any questions about these people. He's taking our money, he's taking our accommodation, and he's running a people smuggling racket in that accommodation. That sums up the insanity, the dangerous insanity of our approach to these people. You just arrive here and say, can I stay here, please? And we go, yeah, you can. Can we ask you a few questions about yourself? I'd rather you didn't. OK, then, just stay. Unbelievable. Let's speak from the Centre for Migration Control. Robert Bates, welcome to the show, Robert. But this guy's case sums up all that's wrong about our asylum seeker policies. Isabel Oakeshott and I were discussing earlier in the show how, with a dreary inevitability, we're learning that more and more of these Iranian plot suspects who apparently were plotting to attack the Israeli embassy, they were arrested dramatically around the country 2 weeks ago. We asked, are they asylum seekers? Are they illegal migrants? Oh, we can't tell you that because it could affect the police investigation. Absolute rubbish. They didn't tell us, but guess what? Drip by drip, bit by bit, we've found out now that at least 4 of them were asylum seekers, were illegal migrants allowed to stay. And I'll bet you the rest are too. The government don't want to tell us because it's embarrassing to them. Now we find out about this guy, Ahmed Ebid, who was, at our expense, living in an accommodation paid for by us, paying for his family on benefit welfare payments paid for by us, was running a massive people smuggling ring, smuggling people from Libya over into Europe, making himself millions of pounds, 12 million quid, and getting nearly 4,000 people out of Libya and into Europe with all the problems that that caused. Just sums it up, doesn't it? Nobody asked this guy any questions, like they never do, and here he is running a crime business at our expense. It sums up our insane approach to asylum seekers, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And I really don't know why we are continuing to give those people that have come into our country illegally on small boats the dignity of processing their asylum claims. We are so caught up in this idea of due process and doing everything by the letter of the law. We've tied ourselves into absolute knots. And the result is we have tens of thousands of people scattered around the country, costing us billions of pounds every single year, and about whom, most importantly, we know absolutely nothing. You know, these are people who are coming in, they have very little paperwork, if any. We have their word that they're legitimate asylum seekers. In most cases, they're not, because they're coming from a safe country. And unfortunately, the taxpayers having to foot the importation of people that are potentially very, very dangerous. I mean, this is, of course, a case that has been rumbling on since 2023, I believe it is. So it's something that, you know, Keir Starmer might try and claim as a victory of his smashing the gangs approach, but it was actually something that was put in train by the existing processes and nothing at all to do with the sweeping, ridiculous reforms that he introduced upon entering government. Unfortunately, we just don't know those people that are coming into this country. And this year, you know, we could see another 50,000 coming across the channel. How many of them mean to do us harm as well? We just don't know.
And were you as shocked as I was last week, towards the end of last week? I think it was Friday, that we learned, you being an expert, you may have already known, but I didn't, that when these asylums, these migrants, these illegal foreigners unlawfully cross the channel, break into our country, they've never got any documents, they chuck those into the channel, into the sea, so they can't be sort of pinpointed as to who they actually are. So you'd think at this point they've arrived, they've got no documents, that the police, Home Office officials would interrogate them, quiz them if you like. Who are you? Where did you come from? What's your background? What's your family? Etc, etc. But we learnt last Friday, no, that doesn't happen in nearly all cases. Because such interviews are entirely voluntary. So if these asylum seekers, these illegal migrants, don't want to be interviewed, as most of them don't, by the Home Office or the police, they don't have to be. They just say, oh no, thank you very much. And we go, okay, that's fine. This results, Robert, in only 1 in 15 of these illegal migrants actually being interrogated by the officials, by our administration. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's probably predominantly because the system is just not working. It is nowhere near fit for purpose. I think that many in the Home Office would be quite grateful that so few take up the offer to do an interview, because it actually takes a bit of the burden off their desk. But of course, what happens in the meantime is these individuals get access to advice and services that the taxpayer is paying for, which allows them to actually then develop quite an ornate case for why they should be able to claim asylum. You see the cases of people pretending to be homosexual, pretending to be Christian, pretending that they face persecution in their home country, and that's because they're not being interrogated. We're not really drilling down into who they actually are. We don't really either have these proper databases that are quite as effective as the political class would like us to think. They go on constantly about these kind of Interpol databases that are all-knowing. They're very not. They're very, very sort of superficial entities that actually don't help us at all. And, to go back to my point, the system isn't working. Labour have said that. The Conservatives are pointing to it. We need to reach a point where anyone that's coming on a small boat, anyone that's overstaying a visa and trying to claim asylum in this country just needs to, at the moment, have those applications frozen, and they should not be able to submit them because it's costing us upwards of £6 billion every single year. It's posing huge risks to communities, women and girls in particular, and the British taxpayer, frankly, is already having a pretty tough ride. They shouldn't have to put up with much more of this.
Basically, this government, I mean, in terms of the thousands of people, by the end of this year, it looks to me as if 50 to 60,000 people will have illegally crossed the channel in small boats, broken into our country. The government's approach to these people is so lenient and lackadaisical that no questions asked, they're immediately asked to allowed to stay. Literally live amongst us when, as we've just discussed, some of them may be plotting terrorist atrocities. This guy running a massive people-smuggling ring from his taxpayer-funded flat in West London. So they don't ask any questions of these people. As I say, only 1 in 15 even gets interrogated. So this government, they allow nearly 50% of asylum seekers to stay. Until 3 years ago, it was a ridiculous 76%, I do believe. It's now down to just below 50%, still one hell of a lot. So half of the asylum seekers who apply that we know nothing about are allowed to stay. This government is guilty of putting the population of this country in danger with these policies.
Incredibly so. I think the dispersed accommodation policy that's now been enacted and seen these hotels put up and down the country is an incredibly damaging one. The policy should be, and it would be if we'd had proper investment in detention facilities, that an individual arrives in this country illegally and they're taken to one of those centres where within 2 weeks their claim is processed and they run out of kind of judicial review and run out of legal road within 2 weeks, and then they are removed. I think it is absolutely scandalous. And of course, the bigger problem actually is those 50% who have their applications rejected aren't necessarily removed. You'd think it would be kind of part for the course that someone's had their application rejected, well then they're removed the next day. Unfortunately, thousands are still staying after their application has been rejected. And then, of course, there's the other thousands who put in an application but then just disappear before their application's even assessed as well. And this is the very problem with allowing these individuals to be put up in hotels or accommodation such as this chap. They have complete free rein to disappear if we don't keep an eye on them.
Yeah, really, that's a disgraceful situation. Robert, good to talk to you, though. Robert Bates there from the Centre for Migration Control.